Ange Kallinikos is the founder and managing director of Aussietel Technologies, a communications company using conversational AI to make customer support feel human again. After 15 years in sales and senior management across big tech and telco companies, Ange saw that there was a problem to solve, but it wasn't about the customers, it was about the systems. He actually wanted to put people first. So by September 2021, he launched Aussietel with a single vision to make telco easier, more transparent, and customer focused. Today, Aussietel uses AI agents to handle outbound and inbound calls with human-like voices, natural pacing, and smart SMS follow-up. He's here to share what good telco looks like to represent good customer service in a world that is so quickly forgetting what it's like to be human. This guy is a powerhouse, a dynamite. I'm kind of a little bit nervous because I feel like it's Authentic Me's biggest guest that I've ever had on board. So please welcome to the show, Ange.
Hey, Mel, thanks for having me. That's an incredible pump up, and hopefully I can live up to the big words.
I'm super excited to have this conversation because in a world that now everyone's talking about AI, I find where the hell do we go to trust the information, trust the source, and also the people running these big companies that are selling AI agents and AI telecom services. So really excited to have the conversation with you. But the man behind the tech is what I'm really interested in to start off with. And I'm assuming that you didn't just wake up one day and was like, I really want to be in telecommunications.
Definitely did not.
So what was younger Ange like? I'd love to know just a little bit of that character and that personality as a kid, and then how you ended up in the entrepreneurial world.
Yeah, young Ange loved sport. Old Ange loved sport.
Still loves sport.
I was never really into tech or anything like that. I spent all of my time outdoors in the sun, kicking the footy, kicking the soccer ball, shooting hoops, riding my BMX. I think that was, the BMX was kind of freedom, right? Like as soon as we got off the training wheels, that means you could go wherever you wanted to. And I think it was a different time back then. As long as we were home before the street lights went off, the parents didn't really care too much. So you'd get up in the morning, you'd get on the bike and off you'd go. So I think that's sort of so there was never really a lean into tech. I had lots of mates through high school and stuff that were into gaming, and I don't know, that was never me. I never sort of resonated with that type of stuff. Probably wasn't until a lot later in my career where I started to find tech interesting. You
also grew up in a time, same as me, where I think technology wasn't as heavily used in our day-to-day, right? There was a landline, a home line, and not many people even had a mobile. What did your parents do for work? What was it like in the family dynamics there?
So I grew up with a single mum. So she worked often two jobs. She sort of worked all sorts of stuff. A lot of the stuff that she did was in hospitality, because before my mum and dad separated, they had the sort of cliche European stuff of they had fish and chip shops and restaurants and things like that. So in terms of work, mum was a single mum, so she worked often two jobs, would work late at night, typically in hospitality type stuff, because that was sort of what she knew. And in terms of dynamic, I think it was mainly her and my grandmother that sort of raised me, right? And I think a lot of the responsibility and stuff like that around, getting yourself ready for school, getting your lunches ready. I had a younger brother who was 6 years younger than me, or have a younger brother who's 6 years younger than me. So a lot of that responsibility sort of felt on me too, to look after him. So I think that's sort of where some of that entrepreneurial stuff came in, right? Because it was those lessons learned over time. Going through it, you don't think that's setting you up to be an entrepreneur.
100%.
It's still sort of a title that doesn't, it doesn't always sit really well with me. I'm like, am I an entrepreneur? Am I doing something totally different? Because in my mind, entrepreneurs they're sort of changing the way the world is and stuff like that. And so I haven't quite felt comfortable in that title or in that skin yet. But when I sort of think about what set me up to be a business owner, to start my own company, I think a lot of the lessons were learned through that time.
It's why I love asking that question, because even for me, I look back and I grew up with my parents owning Chinese restaurants.
Yeah.
And even though it wasn't entrepreneurial, because I find immigrants were really just trying to survive and build a business,
Yep.
but that working hard or the sense of working for yourself, I look back and I'm like, oh, well, that definitely makes sense that I've kind of come out with a bit more of a business mindset. But
Yep.
I agree. I think back then as well, like the word entrepreneur was not really a word,
Yeah.
right? Like it's such a buzzword now, but back then it's like you just made a living and you provided for your family.
Yeah, and I feel like, and the reason I say I'm sort of not comfortable in it is it almost feels like it's taken a different meaning. As I said, like what my view of what an entrepreneur was, it sort of feels like there's so many people that have just got that in their bio now, right? And it's like, what are we doing? You know, what impact are we having? How are our products changing and impacting people's lives for the better? That for me is what entrepreneurs are doing, right?
Yeah.
And we're, and as you said, right, we don't necessarily associate that with the traditional what small business owners were. You know, my parents, before they separated, were very similar. They had restaurants, fish and chip shops. That was that hospitality type business, but being involved in those, it is you learn a lot about hard work, like what hard work looks like. That it doesn't start at 9 o'clock and it doesn't finish at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and so what would you say the difference is between a business owner and an entrepreneur now? Like, what would your definition be that separates the two?
That's a good question. I think the lines are blurred.
Yeah,
because I think we're in a time where people are having so many different ideas every day that they're bringing to life. And that's where I've learnt to change my worldview on what an entrepreneur is. It doesn't just now have to be how are we impacting the people for the greater good. It's how are we actually bringing our ideas to life.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's I don't think there needs to be a separation between the entrepreneur and the business owner now because they're one and the same.
Yeah. The way that I've kind of looked at it is I think entrepreneurs take a hell of a lot of risk.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I find, because I look at my dad, and when my dad started the Chinese restaurants, it was just a survival thing. I don't know if he necessarily went out to solve a problem. Yeah. And that's probably the difference where I've gone, my entrepreneurial qualities and traits are kind of what you said, is like this real drive for impact, or this drive for service and to innovate or disrupt the market. But you're right, like some business owners are entrepreneurial, but I also see some business owners that are just business owners. Correct. And they don't actually have that entrepreneurial trait or quality.
Yeah, and you're spot on. And I think that, and it's not, for me now, it's just trying to not necessarily title anything, right? But I absolutely agree with you. And as I said, always my worldview has sort of been that the entrepreneurs are doing something to be meaningful and impactful, not just running like what you would call it, a day-to-day sort of business, right?
Agreed. Yeah. Okay, so I'm with Ange now in high school.
Yep.
What was he studying? So he loved sport. Did you ever want to be a pro sport player?
I did.
Was that
Yeah. So there was a point in time where I thought that I was, I think every kid has got a dream of being their idol or their sports star. So for me, soccer was really big.
Yeah.
Was really big growing up, and we're watching the likes of Zidane and stuff like that go around, and Ronaldo, not Cristiano, the original Ronaldo, go around, and that was always the dream, right? It was, I'm going to be this soccer player, and I'm going to travel the world, and I'm going to have all of this money, because we didn't have a lot of money, right? I think some of the dreams came from that, being mum was a single parent, and so we didn't have a lot, and there were these dreams of that was sort of the ticket out, right? But then sort of got to 14, 15 and realised pretty quickly, maybe I'm not quite good enough to do that.
Okay.
But that was Ange in high school. I still played a lot of sport. I still loved it. I've learned a lot of lessons from a business perspective, even as being a parent, from playing a lot of team sport, right? Because there's a lot of the mindset of what makes high-performing, high-successful sports teams is very similar to what's high-performing, highly successful business teams.
And I actually find a lot of entrepreneurs start from a sporting background, or like I know a lot of PTs and fitness trainers that then end up in the entrepreneurial space. What do you think are the identifying qualities of someone that is a peak performance, whether that's an athlete or a business owner or someone that is striving for success? Have you noticed the common trait between them all?
Yeah, absolutely. There's an unrivaled work ethic. They just put in the work. They turn up every day and they grind, and that comes from having ultimate discipline, right? Not relying on motivation to get the job done, having discipline instilled, right? Because ultimately, discipline is the art of getting shit done even when you don't want to do, and that really drives your work ethic. And I think they've all got a really clear purpose as well, because purpose has got to be the fuel. Discipline gets it done, but your purpose is the fuel for that.
Yep.
So I think that is so incredibly important, and you see that in the best sports people and the best business people, that talent will get you so far, but the ones that really excel in both are the ones that have just got an unrelenting work ethic, and the ability to turn up when things are hard and when they don't want to, and just keep persevering and keep pushing through.
What do you think is what's your opinion on like hustle culture? And I'm playing devil's advocate because I actually really agree with you. But I've been listening to a lot of other people now coming in, and there's this you work hard almost. The pendulum swings the other way, and then it's like, oh, you can't. Whereas I'm like, I don't know any other way, and I'm actively seeking if there's another way to not work hard, and I get, money to just drop in, and I get to just flow in the river of wealth.
Yeah.
But what do you say to the people that go, don't work? It's not don't work hard, but anti-hustle cultures.
So I haven't heard of anti-hustle culture until you brought it up now. My immediate response will be is you're always going to have outliers. There's always going to be, in everything, right? There's going to be incredible sports people, incredible business people, or in any industry that there's a bit of luck or talent where they will tell you they didn't work hard and they turned up and they got it. I think your question before was what was the most common thing that I found, and that's what I would say. I think you raise a good point about the pendulum, when one thing goes, and I think we just do that as society, that when thing goes really far one way, what we want to do is try to bring it back really far the other way. Everyone's different. Everyone is unique. Everybody's journey is their own. And look, there are definitely some stuff on that I wouldn't subscribe to. You've had this conversation with a lot of other, business owners, entrepreneurs, founders, sort of however you want to title it, about what's made them successful, and no one is the same.
Exactly.
And you can see all of this stuff on the socials about you've got to get up at 4 a.m. and you've got to have this 2-hour routine and you do all of that. I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
Right. I don't have the capacity to have any of that. So I sort of speak from where I come from, and for me, it's what do I bring to the table in this, and it is that hustle, it is that grind, it is that determination, and that resilience and persistence to just keep going forward. And I think there is a sort of a greater, I think that anti-hustle culture does go to a sort of a greater thing in maybe where society is in at now, and I never want to be that person that says my generation is this, my generation is that, because we've lived that, right? We've lived that from the generations above, trying to tell us how we were different and maybe we didn't necessarily work as hard. And, I think back to, old bosses and old leaders that I've had, and they want to tell you, you didn't live through a war, or you didn't live through this, or you didn't live through that. And it was like, that's irrelevant to me. Don't dismiss my journey, my story, and my lived experiences because I didn't have the exact ones as you. But what I sort of do see with that anti-hustle culture is come across more people that when they hit resistance, and that's part of being a business owner and entrepreneur, right? We hit resistance or friction every single day. Things don't always go our way, right? We've got to really work through and really push hard. I find that there is more, it seems to be more prevalent now that when they hit that friction or that resistance, that they turn and run and look for the easy way around rather than being focused on working through the problem and pushing through, right?
Yeah. And they say the obstacle is the way, right?
Yeah,
It's one of my favorite
absolutely.
mantras. And or another one I love is like entrepreneurship is swallowing glass every day and waking up and going for more.
Yep. We're suckers for punishment. There's absolutely.
Exactly. And so have you always been that way? Like, have you always had that discipline and that grit through single mum, obviously growing up and having that responsibility, then sport? Has that always just been a common trait of yours as you then moved into the business world?
On reflection, probably. And I think a lot of that is learned or lived experience, from being a kid to a teenager and into an adult. It was never sort of something I stopped and thought about at the time. The most I've probably reflect on it has been in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, because people ask me, right? They hear that you're a founder or an entrepreneur, and you get a different level of connection and a different type of question. And I think naturally that's just sort of been in my personality, that if I didn't get something the first time, it was okay. Let's practice makes progress. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep practicing. Let's keep trying until we get it. We get it right. And I think that's ingrained, and that's behavioural. I don't know how much of that can be taught. You can try to learn some of it or understand it, but yeah, definitely. I think it's something I've had.
And the way that you say it feels like it's the fabric of your character. That's what it feels like when you're like, this is just, it's a part of your identity. This is just who Ange is, and this is how he shows up in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and look, everyone's got their own fabric, right? As you sort of say. And for me, I think that's what it's always been. It's not something I've deliberately tried to do. I said it's a really deep question that probably takes a whole other podcast to work out where does it come from. But yeah, I'd say it's definitely been part of the character or the fabric for as long as I know.
And you're one of those founders that, and we'll talk about the business in a bit, but it is very purpose driven. The interactions that I've had with you, you have this deep purpose in you. And now most young men don't really know what that is or have that. How did you find your purpose, or when was there a moment that you were like, this is my purpose?
It wasn't like I wouldn't say that there's like a defining lightning moment, where you were struck and this is what I've got to do. I think your purpose changes over time, right? I'm not the same person I am today that I was 5 years ago, that I was 10 years ago, that I was 15 years ago. And what drove me 15 years ago is not what drives me today. So I don't think that we can look at purpose as something that is static.
Love it.
It's always evolving. And if I look at where my sort of purpose now, in terms of my drive, and that comes now from being a father and having kids. That was not what drove me and what fueled my resilience and my discipline and all of that type of stuff 10 years ago, but it is what it does now. So I think, we can't just say that it's static and it never changes, because I think that evolves over time as we evolve as people.
Yeah, absolutely. So you went out from graduating school. Did you study a certain degree? I want to know how you end up in telco, because we'll talk about the sort of the general consensus of telecommunication businesses as well, and the bad rep that it kind of gets. So
and it's warranted most of the time, I think.
It baffles me that you're in an industry that's so hated. It's like I always wonder how car salesmen became car salesmen. So same thing is like, how did a telecommunications person, you didn't wake up and just go, I would love to solve this problem?
No, definitely didn't. I don't mind a challenge, so that's part of probably the reason why I'm in here. I did I never set out with the intention to be in telco. I never set out with the intention 15 years ago, 18 years ago, to be a founder of a business. I think where I sort of started was a lot of young adults trying to find their way. I didn't excel at school. The structure of school and the way that we were asked to learn, that it didn't fit me. I used to get a lot of reports from, when we would do the parent-teacher interviews and stuff, they'd say to my mum, when he wants to be, he can be like really switched on, but if he could just stop talking and stop moving about and stop doing all of these things. And, at the time, and then I was like, well, that's just kind of who he is. And she'd be like, oh, you got to work harder on this and that. And I look back now, so being a father with kids, and I see a lot of myself I see a lot of what my son struggles with from a schooling perspective in me. And we need to embrace that, because that what allows me to do what I do today. And for some people it works, right? And the structure of school and the way that they learn is great. For me, it didn't. It wasn't. It didn't sort of fit. It wasn't the glove that fit. So when I finished school and knew that I wasn't going to be the next Ronaldo,
your dreams were shattered.
Yeah, dreams were shattered, and I had to. Okay, I actually got to get a job. I've got to do something. What does life look like next? Yeah. My initial thing was to go to uni, maybe do something in sort of sport or something in fitness. But I needed to take a break. I was like, I'd gotten through year 12 because it was important, or I thought at the time it was important. It was important for my, for my mum, and it was important for me. And I think it was a little bit too of I don't like to give in. Like I don't want the reason that I'm the reason that I didn't follow through on something, right? If it's too hard, it's like the ultimate challenge. How do I just get through it? It might not be ideal. It might not be great. I'm swallowing glass every morning, but I'm going to get through it. I'm just going to persevere. So I wanted to take some time off. So the plan was I'm going to go back to school. I'll go to uni, and I'll do something in sports, right?
Okay.
Whether it was like coaching or sports management or something like that. But I took 12 months off and I worked. I got a full-time job. I was doing door-to-door sales. I was making really good money. And then when the time came to go back to work, to school, I was like, man, no way.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. Like I had the taste of cash, and it was great because it was also freedom. It allowed me to travel and do the stuff that I wanted to do. So the career sort of progressed from there, just evolved into other sales roles, things like that. And I ended up in sort of tech sales. And that was sort of where it progressed. And we sort of moved through this journey of sales, and then sales leadership and management type roles. And then I sort of hit a point where I knew that the roles that I was doing, there was a lot of travel overseas, interstate, and stuff like that. And I hit the point when we were expecting our eldest, that because I was working for someone else, I knew that I didn't want to do that forever. I knew I wasn't going to have the flexibility. I want to be a present father, right? I want to be present for my kids. I want to be able to take them to kinder, pick them up, drop them off, go to the beach, do all of that type of stuff. And I wanted to have that flexibility, but I also wanted to have the financial flexibility too, right? And I knew I wasn't going to have that working for someone else. So I wanted to find a way where I could be a bit more of a master of my own destiny from a time perspective, but also the master of my own destiny from a financial perspective, and really start to set up and be financially free. And
is Aussietel your first business?
Second.
Okay. Yeah.
Second. So I'd started a consulting business, and that's sort of how I got into telco. I was doing consulting into businesses, helping them with sales, marketing, recruitment, onboarding. So essentially, how do we identify high-performing sales, or how do we identify top talent? How do we turn them into high-performing sales talent? And then how do we retain them? And then that's sort of how I got into telco. And then we had a big shift in 2020. The world sort of stopped. My business at the time had significantly changed. I was doing a lot of work. I was working in the telco space, and the telco that I was working with changed direction. They had a huge pivot on what they wanted to do, which meant that there was a huge pivot for me. There was a huge buyback of a lot of the businesses that had been working in, and there was sort of the writing was on the wall. I'd been thinking for a long time about there's got to be a better way to do what we're doing, a better way and a more meaningful way to engage with customers. But also, I still, even though I was operating in this space, I still wasn't the business owner that I wanted to be. I still didn't have the flexibility. It wasn't the same corporate job, but I still didn't have that flexibility on time. I still didn't have that financial autonomy and that type of stuff. So in the midst of lockdown and a lot of glasses of wine, I just started to think we've got to do something different, and now's the time. If not now, then when? And there's never a good time to start a business, right? The best time is today.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah.
And then Aussietel was born.
Wow. And all right, let's talk about these big conglomerates. I think I can name on these, but obviously like Optus, Telstra, Vodafone.
You can name them. I probably shouldn't.
Yeah. So there are these big sort of like, it's kind of like the big four in banking as well, right? So
absolutely.
they've got these big ones, and I find every single person listening to this will have a story around a poor experience, or like my partner is always like, oh, I'm just going to swap like lines. And we're always frustrated at something to do with the internet, to do with our phone, to do with, just connection.
Yeah.
And yet we depend on it and need it so deeply.
Yeah.
So what is the difference, I suppose, for Aussietel to come in and service people when there already is so much hesitation, I suppose, around swapping lines and businesses?
No, definitely a challenge, and everybody does have a story. If not one,
Multiple.
they've probably got 10.
Yeah.
And that was part of it, right? That was sort of part of it. We've lived that experience, telling people that, you'd be at a barbecue or a catch up, or you'd see someone from high school that you haven't seen for a long time, and hey, Ange, what are you doing now? And this is what I'm doing, and I'm working in the telco space, and I'm working for this big telco. And they're like, oh man, I've got this. And it would just always go into this like thing, and I've got this problem, and I need this fixed, and I need this solved. And I'm sitting there trying to justify and explain that, yeah, guys, there is this huge wheel, and I will do my absolute best to change its direction and course, but I can only do so much. Yeah, but you're in this role, and I hear you. I can't impact change.
Okay.
And that was a frustration.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not all the fault of the big telcos. It's complex legacy systems. They're at such a size where things don't happen quickly or easily. And there is lots of people in there that want to impact change that might feel the same, that how do you stop the big wheel from turning, right? And ultimately, these businesses are run. The reality is that they're run for profit. Now, I'm not running Aussietel as a charity, but we prioritise our people and our customers and the experience that we give, because we have to. Ultimately, we have to, right?
But see, I feel like everyone says that. Everyone says people over profit. No one wants to say we're just a big conglomerate and we're here to be transactional and take your money.
Yeah.
And so how do you actually show that or prove that or live in that ethos that you are a company that cares about people before its profits?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's not easy, because what you've got to do is you've ultimately got to start and lead with trust in that relationship, right? And the best way that we can do that is say what we're going to do and do that, right? Follow through. And that is how we try to show them that that's what we're prioritizing. What we also do, and what's so important, and one of the, I suppose, a frustration point for me, and something that never sat well with me, being in big tech or big telco, we were asked to sell solutions to customers that the business wanted to sell, right? That were either highly profitable or the new shiny thing in market, or, they had to hit a certain number on the shareholder report, it needed to look good, or whatever it is.
Got it.
And so then you're out there selling. You're not selling based on what the customer needs, you're selling based on what the business wants you to sell. So that's probably the biggest thing that I try to do, is be really clear with customers. This is not about me. There's not a stack of stuff that I'm trying to sell you. What I want to make sure you get is what your business needs to effectively communicate with your customers. And if I can do that and save you money, or if I can do that and reduce the products you've got, I'm going to do that. I'm not here trying to sell you 27 things if what you need is 3.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's probably our biggest focus, is meeting the customer where they're at and providing them with the solutions that they need. And Then if there's scope for stuff outside of that because they want to elevate in certain areas or change the way they're engaging with some of the stuff that we do in AI, absolutely right. You need a new product. It's going to solve a problem. It's going to cost money, but that's if you want it. There's no hard sell here from us. And that's probably a big difference. And then also too, I said on the trust stuff, it's actually delivering on what we say we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're there when we say we're going to be there. We do what we say we're going to do.
To be fair, that's half of the problem, right? As in, if you just live up to your brand promise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most businesses actually don't, or, you buy something and then you get a whole nother product. So if you can honestly just live in integrity and say what you're going to do, you've won the game. Yeah,
I think we really, I think trust is really undervalued when it comes to business, So I want to have these conversations. We talk about what are the things that are going to make your business successful, and it's that trust. It's turn up for your customers every single day, and it has to do what it says on the tin.
Mm-hmm. I love it, and this conversation around trust is getting dispersed, and I think there's a lack of trust, which is kind of what I was saying. And with this road of AI coming through, where do we put our trust? And I find the reason why I'm so passionate about personal brands or these founder-led brands is okay, well, Aussietel Technologies to me is just a logo.
Yep.
But now that I've got Ange's face, Ange's words, Ange's story coming through, well, my trust level for your company has gone up significantly.
That's good to know.
And I would hero it and be able to give referrals to people. If people had an issue or something with telco, with AI, I'm just going to be go to Ange. And now, is your business malleable enough? And I guess the touch point is, do they actually get you though? Or is it then I'm getting sent off to the entire team? What's that like? How you manage that?
Yeah. And that's a really good question. And that's probably something that's something that I'm consciously working through every single day. When you start the business, doesn't matter what it is, you're the person people buy into, you're the person they trust. Correct. And nobody cares about your business or sells your business or talks about your business the way that you do, right? No one is going to be you need to be your biggest champion, right? What we want to do is build advocates like you along the way that champion, hero who we are. But ultimately what I try to do is, what's so important for me is to keep that personal touch and that personal connection, that there will be some point where you're handed over to a team member, right? Even the stuff that we're doing in AI, what I influence is the stuff on the experience side. I know my limitations, and I think that's so important from any founder or from any entrepreneur. Know the stuff that you're really good at, and focus on controlling that. And you need to be able to hand over to others and trust that they're going to deliver on that outcome. And so that's so on the technical point, there's going to come and I say this to customers, I will work with you as we roll this out. I'm going to be influencing the experience, but there's going to be other people that there's going to be doers because I can't do everything. Yeah. Right.
And that actually increases the trust, because I think people want to know that you've got a team and that you're stable, because there's this dance between, it's we want you. I think we want to know that when shit hits the fan, they can contact you.
Yep.
But the expectation that you're actually physically doing the grunt work and all the admin and the onboarding, probably not.
No, and I think, and that's, you talk to any business owner, they know that, right? I'm there always to have that conversation, and if you need to escalate anything, call. But most business owners, all of our customers are small to medium business owners, and they get it, right? They're not doing everything. They're not sending every invoice. They're not following up on every bill. They're not doing all of that type of stuff. But I think what it does is it does give people peace to know that if shit really does hit the fan, there's actually someone there who cares about resolving the problem and getting them an outcome, but that they've got someone to call, right? So I think that's sort of where it's got to sit.
Yeah, I love it. This naturally moves on to the conversation then around what conversational AI is. So what really excites me is this natural conversation around what is conversational AI, and there's a lot of discussions around it, but I think not many people know what it is or what agentic AI is. So can you just, in really, really layman terms for my audience, really dumb it down for us? What the hell is it and how it can benefit all of us as entrepreneurs and business owners?
Yeah, cool. So from a conversational AI perspective, if we sort of focus on that, because AI is such a broad, right, broad umbrella, that what we do is think of conversational AI as your virtual team member, right? They're there to take on the predictable, repetitive tasks, the stuff that takes us lots of time but delivers us as business owners or as staff minimal value, right? That's what they're there to take on, so answering general inquiries, following up on orders, checking in, notifying customers, giving status updates, booking in appointments, scheduling callbacks, all of that type of stuff. So that's essentially what conversational AI is there to do, right? Well, I won't go into the detail, but we integrate into the system so there's really good flow of value for the customer so they can get to an endpoint. What it's not is it's not there to replace your whole workforce, right? And I'm really, really clear on that because I think that becomes a pretty big misconception about where we're sort of leading this. This isn't about replacing humans. This is about freeing humans up to do the stuff that's meaningful and important, and allowing the AI to step in and take on that predictable, repetitive, mundane work that is so time intensive, but ultimately isn't delivering us the greatest value. And if we can do that, what we're then doing is if we're freeing up people and giving them back that time, then we could start to reshape some of these opinions that people have, not just about telco, about all industries, because then we're allowing the humans to go back and meaningfully re-engage with their customers. And that's what businesses need to be able to do more of, right? Most of the challenges, or I think when people will talk negatively about a business, is they've had a poor experience or it's taken too long to get follow-up or something like that. And the AI allows that.
Yeah. The number one thing I think business owners want is more leads, more
absolutely.
sales, and then removing...
And happy customers.
Yeah, happy customers, and removing, I suppose, the human error. There's a lot of human error that goes on, or like for me, it's like, okay, well, how do I know that this person is selling the product as well as they should, or even if they are, like, and what is that? You have to listen to a lot of the calls. You've done door-to-door sales. It's just everyone's so different and varied. And what I find interesting is you can train the AI to be basically like your 100 out of 100 best sales call all the time. And I was like, when you shared that, I'm like, wow. Yeah. Because what would that actually look for a business's bottom line?
Yeah. So look, what I would sort of say to that is, to answer the first part of that question, absolutely that's something that the AI can do, right? It can hit leads repetitively. So make the same call. When I talk about the same call, like it's going to have the same tone, the same pitch, the same everything every time. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't have issues with rejection or anything like that. It's maintaining the same conversation, whether it's the call 1, whether it's call 100, whether it's call 1,000. In terms of the next part of that, though, as we've sort of spoken about, there will come a point in time where we want to hand over to the human, because people buy from people.
Yes.
We still want that human connection, right? And especially if our products have a little bit of complexity. Do you know what I mean? If it's a simple product that's transactional, it's something that we're buying lots of times before, and it's just a different shape or a different color this time, then AI can handle the whole process for you. If it's a bit more of a complex sale and it's more solutions driven, AI is going to step in and it's going to generate the lead. It's going to find, like what we do when we put in place tally sales, or a lot of companies will outsource their sales to other sales agencies
and offshore.
And ultimately they're not doing the sale. What they're doing is they're just hitting the phones, trying to generate interest, find that one person in 1,000 that's going to say, yeah, sure, I'll take 15 minutes to hear about that product. Well, that's what the AI can do too, right? And from a cost perspective, it is more cost effective to deploy something like that to make that volume of calls than it is as a small, medium business trying to deploy and engage, 5, 10, 20 people to make those calls.
Yeah. And I've heard you give an experience around, I want a specific experience, and I've heard you share around real estate, or like how you've helped real estate businesses. Can you shed light on that?
Yeah. So from a solution perspective, one of the areas where we've sort of looked at and deployed the AI has been around generating interest around open for inspections, and nurturing leads for those. So to give you a really specific example is, if you've got a real estate agency, whenever they list a product, they've got a pool, quite a large pool. I think they've got 12 or 15,000 sort of sitting in this database, and they've got really tight data. So what I mean by that is they know the people, like they'll have their name, their phone number, and the type of property they're looking for, so they can sort of filter by square meters, by bedrooms, by location, by price. So when a new product comes on, a new property is listed, they sort of, plug in the parameters of this is what it is, and then the AI goes and it filters the list and it makes the calls, and it will call in and it will check in. It's, it's Bob calling from XYZ Real Estate. Just wanted to let you know we've listed a property that meets your XYZ. Is that something you're interested in hearing a bit about more? Yep, great. If they are, it hands it over to, let me get the listing agent to give you a call and talk you through the property.
Yeah.
So it sort of does that. And then when it coming up to the opens, it just calls and SMSs to remind everybody to turn up, because what makes a successful open for inspection is lots of potential buyers, right? Yeah. And people get busy and people forget. So, and we've only got, our time is finite as people too. So we've got to, as agents, as business owners, we've got to put our time into high value or high impact. So we might call our, 3, 4, 5 who we think are our best potential buyers, but we're potentially missing out on this other whole pool of people that could be there, and they might not be right for that property, but by getting them there, it exposes them to the next one. Yeah. So having the AI be able to generate that interest, and it's not trying to sell the house, it's not trying to get them to commit to a purchase price. It's just letting them know, we've got an open, it's at this date, it's at this time, can we see you there?
And have you seen stats? So does it also then give the analytics of like the show up rate? I'm assuming it would be profound because everything's in the follow up. Half my business flops because I don't follow up on people.
Well, and we spoke about this sort of, when you think about what you do with events, because a lot of it, what it is it's just that reminder, being able to let people know that this is coming up. You've given us commitment, and it could be the human that started the initial conversation, but we just need that prompt and that reminder, because we get busy, our calendars fill up and things happen, right? And that's where the AI is really good, because it never forgets to follow up. It never forgets to make the call or send the text message. And what we actually find is that the text messaging is far more effective than the calling. We get, I think the average sort of rate that we sort of see is anywhere between 18 to 24% of calls get answered.
Correct.
Whereas 92% of text messages get read.
Yeah.
So the calls are effective for the people that answer them, but the text messaging is where we see the ultimate cut through, and it becomes hugely effective from a lead and follow up perspective, because that's how we're all digesting stuff. Like if you think about all the notifications on your phone, the first thing I look at is the text message, especially when it's addressed to me by name, because I'm like, okay, that if I don't know the number, that they must know who I am because they know my name. Just checking in, we're letting you know we've got this open coming up. And a lot of real estate agents, a lot of businesses are doing stuff like that, but they might do mass market SMS. So it sends the SMS once, and then if they don't go in and send the SMS again, it's not getting done, whereas the AI does that. And if the person has any questions, is there going to be another open for inspection, or do you have any other properties, or I can't get to this one, we build the framework where it can actually converse. Yeah, actually, there is another one scheduled on this day. It'd be great to get you to this one, but if not, what about this one? Yep, great. So then it marks it down and it puts the follow-up and it goes to the next one.
That's so wild. And so you guys program the logic, or like you work with the business owner?
I don't program the logic. We absolutely, we do that. Yeah, that's exactly what we do. We work with we work with whoever is the champion in that business. So we try to understand who's the stakeholder that understands exactly what needs to happen, like what's the flow of value that they want to get from business to customer. And then we go away and we map that out and we start to build in exactly what that looks like.
That's so cool. And then from an experiential part, which is what I think is so unique about your business, is that it doesn't feel like AI, right? Yeah. Like when we do the pilot or like we hear it, there's barging, which you can explain what that is, but how do you humanize the AI and how do you train it to have these nuances that, well, really only humans can do, but even now it's showing that AI can do it too?
And that's a good question. And that's probably where we try to separate ourselves from some of the pack. It's focusing on the experience, not just the tech, right? And I think that's true with anything in tech. Like you think about Apple and how they were so successful with their products because it was always about the user experience and the outcome. We don't need to overload people in the tech and how it works. It's just about making sure it does what you want it to do. And so we try to really focus on that experience bit and work on things like the tone, trying to give it empathy with, natural pauses and follow-up questions, and it not just being too robotic and too scripted, right? And I think, and all about that is if we can create a more natural conversation, with that empathy, with the pause, with the tone, we're naturally going to create a more trusting conversation between the agent and the customer.
So what do you think is going to happen then as it's only going to get better and better?
Yep.
Is it just going to be all blurred? Because I know you've mentioned that it's not here to take over humans. It's meant to complement us and that. But then when I hear that, sometimes I'm like, that sounds scary that you won't be able to really identify if it's human or not. What do you see moving forward? Yeah,
I always recommend, we talk about trust and transparency and honesty and integrity and all of these things. I always say lead with telling people that it is AI, right? This is who I am. This is what I'm here to do. Give me a shot at helping you. If I can't, I'll get you to a human, right? And I think when you ask about where we're going, I think the more people get exposure to it, what we need is people just need to have repeat experiences of success, right? If option A is, and at the moment there's, people are reluctant because we've got experiences with these, like the old, like IVR, like we call them dumb bots, right? So if you think about, you call in your insurance company and they want to check your name and your number and your policy and are you on the scene of an accident?
And press 9
and you give all of this information and then you speak to an agent and then they're asking you the same thing over again. And it's like, I just gave you that info. So what was the purpose of it? And that's what I think most people's experience is. So they assume that that's what it's going to be again. And especially, if the AI doesn't have that natural tone in the voice, it's got that real robotic. People just, like the switch just flips in their brain and they don't even want to engage with it, right? But I think when you've got really, really well tuned and really well trained AI and people have repeat experiences with them and they start to understand that, for predictable, repetitive type tasks, if they can get the answer to their question in 90 seconds as opposed to waiting on hold for 90 minutes, I think more and more people are going to want to engage with it. There's always going to be, we're always going to encounter things where we've got complex issues that the AI can't handle. And that what's important is, and what we try to do is to program it, this is your limitation. When you can't solve the issue, we're not trying, we're handing over to a human to do that.
And so you train it to do that? Because I feel like, isn't AI the whole thing is that it's aimed to appease us, or like it's aimed to, when you think about ChatGPT, just my little knowledge, but you know how it's like at the end of chat, it's always like, and then do you want this? And then do you want this? And it's like this never ending conversation that I sometimes end up in a loop because it's just trying to please me so much.
Yeah, absolutely. It's putting the right guardrails around it, right? That's a different type of AI that is they're focused on the generative side, so going and pulling the information and keeping that conversation going, where we want to create that empathy, but we're giving it specific guardrails based on what is required by the business, So we're going to give it a specific, if we sort of think about it as a new hire in the business, when somebody starts in the business, they don't know everything, right? We train them on a specific set of tasks, and as they learn those tasks, we decide whether or not they're executing those well, and if we want to train them on something else, and it just becomes this process. AI is no different. We start it, and I tell all customers, let's start small, right? I'll go into a lot of customer meetings and we start talking about AI can do this, and then they start seeing all of these opportunities in the business. And one of my biggest challenges at the moment, it's not necessarily getting people to buy into how AI can help. It's actually getting them to refocus and bring it sort of back and say, hey, we don't need to, absolutely, let's tackle these things, but let's start to build out our rocks and pebbles, right? Let's start with let's nail the small stuff. What are the tasks that we can immediately train the AI to do that are going to give high impact, high value back to your customers and free up your existing team? Once we've nailed that, let's talk about the other things that we can do. How can we start to automate more and more and more? But let's get success. Let's get these tasks successful, and then we can start looking at the other stuff.
Yeah, and I think a lot of business owners kind of go, can't you just solve all my problems now? And now everything can't this just be done by AI? I even catch myself doing that, like with my content teams. I'm like, can't you just remove that from AI? And they're just looking at me like, no, Mel. But
no. And look, we're going through that same journey as a business, right? I've had a lot of thought about we want to make sure that we're drinking our own champagne and all of that type of stuff. But I'm super conscious about where we've deployed AI. Like, we haven't deployed our AI agents in our tech support team, because right now for us, if someone calls and they've got a problem, we're usually not getting that person in their best, most reasonable state. We get that call when something goes wrong and they need an immediate fix. So for me, I look at our business, I go, that's not the right time to deploy AI, because that is not going to add value. That's just going to cause further friction, because at some point they're going to want to break through the AI and talk to a person because they feel that only the person can solve that issue. So it's understanding where in the business is it going to be most impactful and add the most amount of value, but also cause the least amount of friction with your customers.
And so who does Aussietel actually serve? Because is it all businesses, any businesses? I know you mentioned SMEs, but is there a particular type of customer that you have?
So the short answer is all customers. Anyone's a customer. We've got customers that are, 1 or 2 staff businesses. We've got customers that are, 500 plus staff. So we're across all ends of that spectrum. The reason I sort of lean more towards the SME space is I feel like they're forgotten when it comes to the big telcos. The enterprise there's a lot of effort and energy that gets put into the big enterprise customers, and the SME has always been a space that I think has just been a little bit neglected, right? We are so critical to the Australian economy and what we contribute, but we often get overlooked because our spend is not as much or stuff like that. Doesn't mean that as a business our work isn't as meaningful. So that's why I gravitate more to those, and I love connecting and speaking with other business owners. Like, you just get energy and fuel when you do that.
I really, really love that, because it just shows how grounded you are in supporting those people. Because, you're right. Like, they don't have the bigger budgets. They can almost be seen as like annoying, and but they still have needs, and they still have a business that's super impactful in their own right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they've got a family to feed.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. Thank you. I've really, really enjoyed this chat. I've got a few more questions up my sleeve.
Go for it. But it's been good.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, and I love where things are headed. What do you have to say to the business owner? They probably won't be listening to this podcast, but ones that aren't adopting AI. But that still haven't adopted AI, probably don't understand where to start with it. Do you think that they're going to be obsolete in however long? is it essential that we have an AI driven, or at least some sort of part of our businesses that are optimized?
Yeah, I wouldn't say obsolete. What I would say is if the reason that they're not adopting it is out of fear, what is driving that fear? Because if the fear is that AI is going to come in and it's going to replace people in your team or replace functions of the role, that's not the intent. If the fear is driven that it's going to turn customers away, or they're not going to have a really good experience, like anything, if you deploy anything in your business, there's always risk if you haven't done it well, right? And I'd say if fear is your driver, give us a call and have a chat and let us help you overcome that fear, because people's exposure to AI, we're using it every day. I'll give you a really great example. I was speaking with a customer yesterday, and this is somebody I would not have assumed was using AI just because they're in a pretty traditional, let's say like a traditional white collar type role. And he was talking to me about how he uses AI, ChatGPT, to challenge his thinking.
Yeah.
Right. And I would never have thought of that. I'm like, why do you need someone to challenge your thinking? He goes, because I've got so many people in my business that if I throw them an idea, they never want to tell me it's wrong because I'm the boss and I'm paying their salary, right? So for him, he's found an outlet where he uses ChatGPT to challenge his ideas. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Challenge me on it, is how he was explaining it. And I just found that like so incredible that's where he has thought that he's got to go to be able to get, now that I said to him, ChatGPT will typically want to agree with you, right? And he goes, but I set but I set the parameters and I make sure and I tell it, challenge me and ask me this stuff. And so he finds that really, really meaningful. And then that opened up a conversation about what we're doing in AI. And it opened him up too to say, yeah, absolutely, there's probably other places in the business where we could look at deploying this tech where it would help our customers. So if it's from that perspective, I'd say have a chat to us. There's nothing to fear because customers are engaging with it more than you would think anyway. And it's not there to replace your team. It's just there to free them up. And if you're not doing it, at some point every business is going to have it, right? If we sort of look ahead 3-5 years, it's not going to be, at the moment it almost feels uncommon to call a business and interact with AI. It's not going to be the case moving forward. So
Agreed.
Do it now, don't get left behind.
Yeah, totally agree. It's riding that wave because the wave is here, but there definitely is, as we transition, I don't know how long, but before we know it, the internet, same thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, so afraid of it, but it's well and truly adopted. And I have something to add to that for the tradesman. I find anyone that's a plumber, a concreter, something that's still in a service-based business that doesn't feel like they need to adopt AI because they're like, I'm an electrician. But think about how AI can optimize your operations, like the actual booking or the onboarding and the calls, exactly kind of what you mentioned. You still have to go out there and do the thing. That's great. But how many more opportunities can you get with AI?
Spot on. So it's really interesting that you bring that up. Trade services are our biggest sector.
Yeah.
And they're adopting it more and more and more because more and more of them are understanding the impacts that it can have on their business. And it's exactly what you said. A lot of them still need to be out on the tools. And I'm a victim of this, that I've needed a plumber at home and I called the first one and he didn't answer, and then I called the second one, and you just kept going down the Google list until I found one that answered, and it got 12 down. I'm frustrated because I've now had to make 12 calls. But then later that night, I'm getting all these callbacks from all these people, and I'm like, sorry, man, I already got this person, I already did it. So having the AI in, actually acknowledge the call, take the call, is helping them retain and get their business. We've got quite a large plumbing group at the moment, and they've sort of gone to that next iteration of AI. AI was just there to be, it sort of started, we just want to be the overflow. What our team can't answer, the AI is going to answer. And they realized that the AI was doing a really good job of capturing all the details of the job and providing, some upfront pricing to the customer and getting an upfront agreement that based on that quota, we're going to get you out on the job. That some of the team stopped answering the call, right? And they're like pushing it And the guy's like we sort of did the 3-month check-in, and he was like, hey, like the AI was like answering some of these calls in the first month and then more in the second month, and it feels like we've almost doubled in the third month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, man, your team are like sending the calls through there because it's doing a really great job. We're now at the next iteration where the AI is booking the maintenance requests directly with for their end users, so they're able to text in and say, we need a maintenance request on this job site, and the AI picks it up. Great, can you confirm this and this and this? It understands the info it needs, it understands the info that it's been missed, and it responds back and asks for the added info, and then it puts it into the system, and it goes in, and then it schedules the next available person to go out and sort that maintenance request. And you're right, that was from an industry that you would think probably would be, you would typically think are not tech forward or innovative in that way, but more and more understanding the value, because AI for them, you're not answering the call now. That is absolutely lost business. You've got nothing to lose by allowing AI to do it. You're only improving or increasing your chances of closing that lead, and then that lead is directly related to revenue you never had.
Do you think that in the next generation we're about to have the most amount of wealth created, like most amount of millionaires? Like, is it easier than ever now because of all of this advanced technology?
It's more competitive, I think, than ever. I don't know if it's easier than ever. What I will say is I do feel that I'm meeting more and more people that are out there eager to give it a crack, which is awesome.
What do you have to say to the entrepreneur or let's go with the aspiring entrepreneur, someone that doesn't know what business to start yet, is obviously listening to something like this because they're a bit into personal development or professional development, but they're just afraid to take that leap because it's big and scary. What do you have to say to that now that you're...
What I sort of said at the top of the podcast, there's no better time than now. If you're thinking about starting a business and you've got some ideas, obviously different people are at different parts of their life. If you're the aspiring entrepreneur and you're early on in your years and early on in your journey, and there isn't, and you don't have these, financial obligations and that type of stuff, if you want to give it a crack, we have the tools now to help with all of that, right? The access to technology, to information, to knowledge, that wasn't around when we were, doing this 15 years ago. That is so accessible now. So my advice to you is give it a crack. Don't be scared if you fail. I think back to something that was something that my grandma used to say to me as a kid all the time was, don't worry about, she'd say it in Greek. I won't say it in Greek, so it makes more sense in English. But she used to tell me, don't be scared about falling over and scratching your knee, because that's where the experience goes in.
Yeah.
Right? But I say that to any entrepreneur out there. Don't be scared, because it's not failure, it's just learning for the next. And if it's not the first one, it could be the next one or the next one after that. So just get out and give it a crack.
Yeah, you got to get the reps in to build the stats 100%. And then have the feedback to then go. Because some people might even stay at that minimal viable product research, and then analysis paralysis before ever actually launching the product. And I'm like, you got to put it out there.
Yeah, put it out there and get feedback. And what was really important to me when I started Aussietel, even though I wasn't developing a brand new product, it wasn't anything like that, but I made sure that I got feedback early, and I didn't go and hit up my family, my friends to be customers, because I didn't want that feedback. I didn't want them
Uncle Bob saying, you're amazing.
Yeah, you're great. You're awesome. We're going to take on this thing. I wanted to make sure that I was actually delivering value and scalable solutions back into my customers. But if you don't try and you don't put it out there, you're never going to get that feedback. And don't be scared of that feedback, because sometimes it's going to be good, sometimes it's not. You got to take the stuff that's not, obviously filter it and understand that everybody's got, their own opinion, but try to find in there and continue to evolve and iterate.
So what does scaling look like for Aussietel? Is there a 3-year plan? Is there a 5-year plan? What does that look like for the growth of your business?
Yeah, total world domination in the next 5 years. No, I think for us, the way that we're scaling now is continuing to grow through the AI space. I think AI is going to allow us internally to scale and grow and increase our reach. So if I sort of look at where sort of the next 3 to 5 years looks like, I want us to continue to build on being a trusted authority in this space, and having our solutions impacting our customers and their customers' experience, right, with human-like interactions. That's really what we're aiming for.
I love it. Ange, you have been an absolute pleasure to be on the show. This was one of the most wholesome and grounding conversations, especially around a topic that I think has a lot of fear, as I mentioned, and I'm not the first to know, so it was really good to get an expert into it. So thank you so much for your time. I have one more question for you, because this podcast is called the Authentic Me Podcast. Yeah. So I'd really love to know, in this day and age, what does authenticity mean to you?
That's a good question. And that we could probably have a podcast just on that. What does authenticity mean to me? It means being true to yourself and showing up every day. But I think what's really important too is it's not just about being true to yourself and showing up. It's also being respectful about others and their worldview, and appreciating that we're all different, we're all unique, and acknowledging and respecting that too.
Yeah, I love it. Respecting everyone else's authenticity and recognizing. Yeah, love it. So if you have a business, guys, get out and reach out to Aussietel, because they can probably systemize it, improve it, help you optimize it, and start thinking about how AI can really accelerate your business and just help your business. It's not here to replace you. It's not here to replace humans, but it's really here to be complementary and amplify it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Thanks so much.